We are living in a volatile political environment. You could put half of Trump's supporters into what I call the basket of deplorable.
Come on, man.
If the Trump administration approves a vaccine before or after the election, should Americans take it, and would you take it?
If the public health professionals, if Dr. Fauci, if the doctors tell us that we should take it, I'll be the first in line to take it. Absolutely. But if Donald Trump tells us that we should take it, I'm not taking it.
Come on, man. And if you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, then you ain't black.
It was a debate.
No, I find it odd. For almost 7 years, Democrats screamed at the top of their lungs, election interference. No, they blamed election interference on the FBI because of the investigation into Hillary Clinton's emails. Now, when the investigation proved to be true, that she was storing classified emails on her server, the Democrats still screamed election interference, which pressured the FBI to make the decision not to charge Hillary Clinton with violating the Espionage Act. They screamed election interference because of a cooked-up campaign strategy by Hillary Clinton to hopefully win the 2016 election by smearing Trump's populist movement as a Russian psyop. Now, the Democrats who falsely screamed election interference for 7 years are doing exactly what they accused the FBI and Russia of doing. They are committing election interference with the help of the FBI and the DOJ and a corrupt legal system. Now, let me know what you think of the DOJ's indictment of Donald Trump in the comments below. Do you believe Trump broke the Espionage Act? Or do you believe the DOJ is making a mistake by indicting Trump, as some Democrat lawmakers have stated? Or do you believe, like me, that this is election meddling by a Democrat-led DOJ, to prevent the Republican frontrunner who will easily defeat Biden from winning? Now, and as you can tell, the main topic for today will be about the DOJ indictment of Donald Trump. I'll also explain how Trump will win the Republican primary despite the fact that the writing is on the wall and many refuse to see it. That and more coming up. Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the Deplorable Talk Show. You were here with Mr. Deplorable himself, Israel Perez. So, this is a show where I give you my unfiltered opinion on politics and culture. Now, I know nothing about the things I choose to talk about, but this is America, where opinions are just like assholes. Everyone has one. I just choose to record mine and spread it on the internet. Now, every time I go back home and visit family, I leave with a little bit of envy. Because it is nice when you are in a place where your political ideology is the lay of the land. But it also makes me realize that the college-educated leftist and the blue-collar right-wing extremist have more in common than they realize, but both refuse to see the commonality because of the echo chamber that they live in. Now, whether it's a lefty liberal in a Democrat-ran city or a right-wing extremist in a Republican-controlled county, both, and this is my opinion, do not pay attention to the news or politics. And if they do, it's cursory at best. They get their news from news outlets that provide a biased take on aggregated news. CNN, WAPO, Fox, the Young Turks. They get their biases confirmed and push it onto other people as truth. Now, that's why you have people on the left and so-called centrists that call Ron DeSantis a book banner, which is not true. No, that's why you have people on the right that blame the LGBT community as a whole for this weird indoctrination thing that is currently taking place in America. Both examples are the result of media outlets producing cursory news, which the American people then digest cursorily. And I think I said that word right. Which is not good, because you build this confirmation bias bubble that leads to people othering people. And we all know how well that went in the 1930s. So here's a clip to kind of give you an example of how this is playing out.
All right, so tell me what just happened.
The people in the back of the car right behind you said that you're a Trump supporter and just to let us know.
So they warned you
Yes.
that the car in front of them, which is me,
Yes.
is a Trump supporter.
Yes. Sir.
And what do they think you were supposed to do with that information?
I don't know, treat you differently,
Wow.
but that's crazy.
Wow,
how
that is-
society is now.
Do you see how Democrats are and liberals?
Yeah.
They're so mean. They're trying to get me bad service because of my political
That's
beliefs.
crazy.
I know. That is truly shocking that the car behind me saw my Trump 2024 sticker on the window, alerted the Dunkin' Donuts team that I'm a Trump supporter, as if that would have some kind of impact. Democrats and liberals are the most hateful people. And what I've noticed is this person's not even pulling up behind me. Oh, there they are. There they are. Hey, God bless Trump. Trump's inevitable, man. He's coming back. Trump's coming back. That's what you've been saying for 7 years, my guy. For 7 years.
We'll see when he's in prison.
7 years, my guy. You've been saying the same shit. Oh, I'm a xenophobe. I'm a Mexican immigrant. White liberal savior. So as I left, I didn't get this on camera because I had to use my app to pay for my coffee. But as I left, the guy was screaming, "Wait until your family gets deported." See how racist these people are? He assumes that my family is illegal and that I'm not a citizen. These Democrats are so hateful and bigoted. It's hilarious. It's so funny to me. God bless Trump. He is inevitable. Oh, can't wait for him to come back.
No, there's a little bit of my bias poking out by using that clip as an example, but my point still stands. All right? That person in the black car knows nothing about the man in front of him, but is quick to judge him as a bad person because of his support of a political candidate and a previous president nonetheless. That shit lib is equivalent to an evangelical standing outside an abortion clinic calling the ladies who enter sinners and whores. Both had good intentions and speaking their truths, I'm sure. Anyways, let's get into some real news here, huh? So, if you're like me, you forgot that Juneteenth is a national holiday, or maybe you just don't know how to celebrate Juneteenth. So let's see the festivities that people were partaking in on the weekend of June 19th.
Here in this country, holiday weekend celebrations in several cities have been torn apart by gunfire. At least 12 people were killed since Friday.
At a Juneteenth celebration in Willowbrook, Illinois, 1 dead, 22 injured. At a party in St. Louis, Missouri, 1 dead, 9 injured, all teenagers.
All those attending will carry with them the scars, physical and mental, from the gun violence that tore into their lives.
A music festival in Washington, a nightclub in Georgia, a house party in California, more than a dozen mass shootings, nearly 100 people injured. And that was just this weekend.
Nope. Maybe just stay home next year, huh? Moving on. The Twitter gods have giveth these last couple of weeks. You had the streamer controversy in which a streamer by the name of Nickmercs commented on a tweet about a school board meeting that ended in fisticuffs between parents and LGBT protesters. And here's the comment Nick made. They should leave little children alone. That's the real issue. What a hateful thought, huh? To assume that you should let children remain children and not take away their precious innocence? Puberty doesn't come soon enough, Nick, you fucking bigot. That's at least what Activision thought. Because after Nick sent out that comment, Activision removed his COD bundle pack. And I don't know how much Nick was making off that, but I bet you it hurt financially. Activision is part of the leftist secular religion. Nickmercs insulted their sacred cow, so now they must punish him. Stone the bigots. Other streamers such as Tim the Tapman and Dr. Disrespect came to Nick's aid, but there is little they can do but show solidarity while staying out of political fray because they, too need to make a living, I guess. Tim the Tapman asked Activision to remove his bundle and they obliged, but Tim didn't call out Activision for playing politics, and Dr. Disrespect uninstalled Call of Duty live on air but refused to address the political aspect of it. It's just like they had a chance to kind of make a statement and they didn't. Video game streamers are not immune to the culture war that is currently happening, and you guys are going to get dragged in it like everyone else. Now, and this thought that you can stay neutral on these issues is no longer a thing. Nickmercs is just the beginning. Now, they'll be coming for you soon enough. And the other big controversy that happened was between RFK, Joe Rogan, and Peter Hotez. Now, mind you, the Joe Rogan podcast with RFK was trending all last week because RFK said some eye-opening stuff. It's actually a really good podcast. You should go watch it. Peter Hotez decided to jump into an already massive trending topic and throw gasoline on it. And here's that tweet. Spotify has stopped even sort of trying to stem Joe Rogan's vaccine misinformation. It's really true. It's whoever, just awful. And from all the online attacks I'm receiving after this absurd podcast, it's clear many actually believe this nonsense. So, I don't know what online attacks he is experiencing, but if it's on Twitter, you can hit the mute button on any conversation that you don't like, And if someone's spamming you, you can block them. That's an option. And if I remember right, they mentioned him once in the podcast, and it was because they were talking about Fauci. He didn't need to make this public announcement denouncing Joe Rogan and RFK, but he did, and Joe Rogan fired back. Peter, if you claim what RFK Jr. is saying is misinformation, I am offering you $100,000 to the charity of your choice if you are willing to debate him on my show with no time limit. So, after that tweet, Peter Hotez, being the self-victimized prick he is, responded to Joe with no answer, but with a come on, bro statement. Joe, you have my cell, my email. I'm always willing to speak with you. Come on, bro. Get fucked, dude. I hate him so much. That's what I love about Joe Rogan. He's not going to play your fucking game. The low blow here was Peter Hotez's attempt to play the victim, not Joe calling him out. And Joe Rogan knows what he's trying to do, so he then calls him out on it. This is a non-answer. I challenged you publicly because you publicly quote tweeted and agreed with that dog shit Vice article. If you're really serious about what you stand for, you now have a massive opportunity for a debate that will reach the largest audience a discussion like this has ever had. If you think someone else is better qualified, suggest that person. And then he continues to say down here, by the way, Peter Hotez, I saw this tweet that you deleted. And the tweet that Peter Hotez deleted was for he was retweeting his response to the $100,000 statement that challenge that Joe put out. Be serious, Joe. That's what you throw out for hunting buddies on a weekend. A $50 million endowment, which you, Spotify, RFK Jr. can easily afford. Not for me, but so we can continue making low-cost, patent-free vaccines for the world's poor. Preceded by RFK Jr.'s public apology. What a fucking prick, dude. He is, dude. That's why he deleted it. Because he's like, oh, shit, that doesn't sound good. Because that's him basically saying that he's going to be okay with debating. After all that, right? Instead of letting sleeping dogs lie, Peter Hotez could have just let the altercation die in the realms of Twitter, but he instead runs to MSNBC to play the victim, and here's the clip.
Set aside for a moment that Joe Rogan wouldn't even be a neutral moderator of such a debate. He's endorsed anti-vax nonsense many times before. But you just can't, in general, debate with conspiracists and loons. You can't debate whether up is down, hot is cold, black is white. They never change their minds, and they win just by you agreeing to share a platform with them. What's the expression? Never wrestle with a pig, you both get dirty, and the pig gets 40,000 new followers on Twitter. Joining me now is Dr. Peter Hotez himself. Thank you for coming back on the show. It's a shame it's under these circumstances. I understand you've been hit with a deluge of harassment over the last 24 hours. There was even some crazy people who tracked you down and accosted you in person at your home and shouted at you. How are you doing after being called out by the world's richest man and America's most powerful podcaster?
Well, the attacks from the anti-vaccine lobby do come in waves, and this time though it's been one of the tougher ones because, as you point out, of physical stalking and the incessant threatening emails and the stuff online is just total wackadoodle. And let's face it, when you have RFK and Jr. and Joe Rogan and Elon Musk all tag teaming those tres hombres at the same time, I mean, that probably includes just about every follower on Twitter. So it was pretty overwhelming.
Tag teaming. That's what they were doing, huh? I don't think any of them were tag teaming there. Elon came in and put in his 2 cents, and so did RFK Jr., and so did Tim Pool. But nobody was constantly spamming you tag teaming. You're being a little bitch, Peter. If you can't handle the backlash that comes with expressing your opinion in the public square, then you shouldn't do it. Period. Now, he ran to MSNBC to spread falsehoods about Rogan, RFK, and Musk because he didn't like what they were saying. RFK, Tim Pool, Rogan, and Musk did not attack Peter Hotez. They engaged in a conversation he started. Anyways, let's get into the big lead.
The sharing of biased and
false news has become all too common on social media. More alarming, some media true without checking facts first. Unfortunately, some members of the media use their platforms to push their own personal bias and agenda to control exactly what people think. And this is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
All right, so I'm going to start with this up top because it's a constant argument that I see on Twitter every day. The argument is DeSantis is a better candidate, and that's why he should win the Republican primary. Okay, sure. But your feelings don't beat numbers, all right? So let's lay this out. And before the offended come into the comments and start yelling at me, I want DeSantis to do well because we need him in 2028 and in 2032. We don't need him to end up like Ted Cruz, because in hindsight, Ted Cruz was better off bowing out when polling came out showing he was behind on voter support in 2016 because Trump annihilated him to the point where he has no chance of ever winning a Republican nomination in the future. And that's exactly what is currently happening to DeSantis. Now, DeSantis has no chance of winning, and it's not because Trump is the better candidate or because DeSantis is a wet towel. It is because there are too many people running for president in the Republican primary for anyone to beat Trump. And all you have to do is look at the last 2 presidential elections and the last Republican primary. So let's bring up the 2016 presidential election. So if we look here, Trump won with the 46.1% of the popular vote. And if we go over to the 2020 election, Trump didn't win, but he gained more voters. He went up almost 1% in the popular vote to 46.8%. Now, if we look at the Republican primary, Trump won the Republican primary with the 44.9% of the popular votes. If Marco Rubio and John Cash, however you say his last name, would have dropped out and backed Ted Cruz, Cruz would have won the Republican primary, but that didn't happen because Rubio and John had too much pride to quit. No, they believed they still had a chance. Now, we can safely say that Trump has 46% of the popular vote, but for funsies, let's take him down 1%, to 45. There are currently 12 Republican candidates running for president with 4 undecided. And let's bring up this. So, here's a list of the Republicans that have declared their run for presidency. We have Nikki Haley, Vivek Ramaswamy, Perry Johnson, Larry Elder, Asa Hutchinson, Tim Scott, Ron DeSantis, Chris Christie, Mike Pence, Doug Bergman, Francis Suarez, and Will Hurd. And then you have people who are on the fence. That is John Bolton, Kristi Noem, Liz Cheney, and Glenn Youngkin. So, with Trump having 45% of the vote, that means 55% will be split up amongst possibly 14 candidates. Now, I know it is at the very start of it, there's a lot of people running. I know that, all right? And then as we get closer to 2024, most of them will drop out. I know that. So I don't want to hear it. Because everyone will need to drop out in order for DeSantis to win. All right? Because I guarantee you, Ramaswamy, Tim Scott, and Mike Pence will have roughly about 10% of the popular vote by the time it gets to that point. All right? And if it comes down to 3 in the primary election, Donald Trump, Ron DeSantis, and one of those 3 I named, Trump still wins because the third candidate will have more than 10% of the popular votes. The only way DeSantis can win is in a one-on-one matchup with Trump. And I don't see that happening. All right? I don't. Yeah, like, no, I know it's like, yeah, but that's just like your opinion, man. But it's not going to happen. So now that we have that all cleared up, and I can say with confidence that Trump will be the 2024 Republican candidate, let's talk about election interference that is currently happening. Now, if you've been living underneath a rock, the DOJ just indicted Donald Trump. And according to the legal document, Trump is being charged with 38 felony counts. So let's take a look at those charges. All right, here is the document. Scroll up here so that way you kind of see what else there is here. But anyways, we're here for the counts. So counts 1 through 31, willful retention of national defense information. Count 32, conspiracy to obstruct justice. Count 33, withholding a document or record. Count 34, corruptly concealing a document or record. Count 35, concealing a document in a federal investigation. Count 36, scheme to conceal. Count 37, false statement and representation. And then it goes to the other counts here. We're here for count 38. Count 38, false statement and representation. Now, I'm going to make this quick as to how these charges don't hold water. All right. And maybe I'm going to be wrong here because I'm just some asshole on the internet. But obstruction of justice appears multiple times in this indictment. And those charges are the thing that everyone brings up when talking about this because the FBI has audio recordings of Trump and his lawyer talking about hiding and lying to investigators. So here's an article from the New York Times that they took down because it probably jeopardizes the case for the DOJ, but they kind of explain how the evidence came to be. Trump indictment shows critical evidence came from one of his own lawyers. Scroll down here. The two indictments filed so far against former President Donald J. Trump, one brought by the Manhattan District Attorney, the other by a Justice Department special counsel, charged him with very different crimes but have something in common. Both were based, at least in part, on the words of his own lawyers. In the 49-page federal indictment accusing him of retaining classified documents after leaving the White House and scheming to block government efforts to retrieve them, some of the most potently damning evidence come from the notes made by one of the lawyers, Mr. Evan Corcoran. That's how you say his name. Mr. Corcoran's notes, first recorded into an iPhone and then transcribed on paper, essentially gave prosecutors a roadmap to building their case. Mr. Trump, according to the indictment, pressured Mr. Corcoran to thwart investigators from reclaiming reams of classified material, and even suggested to him that it might be better to lie to investigators and withhold the documents altogether. Now, there are two things wrong there. All right. With this bombshell evidence. The first thing is that the audio recording they have of Trump talking to his lawyers has been manipulated because they used an iPhone to record another audio recording that then has been downloaded onto a computer, and the computer's not the biggest part here. Recording an audio recording with an iPhone compresses the audio wave. So at that point, there's no way to tell if it was AI generated, which is a thing now, or if it was selectively edited. And then the second thing is the process of transferring it from the iPhone to a computer also further degrades the audio, but that's not the big point. The chances of the audio being allowed to be used in courts are slim. Now, and even if the judge allows this audio to be used as evidence, it will then be thrown out because the recording as evidence violates attorney-client privilege. And here's Alex Wagner from MSNBC saying that the DOJ violated attorney-client privilege.
That effectively the DOJ pierced attorney-client privilege, and boy, what did they get when they pierced it? Evan Corcoran keeping audio recordings of his diary through the sort of onset of the saga with the retained documents. There's Alex Cannon, another lawyer who refused to put out a statement that said the DOJ or that NARA and the federal government had gotten everything back from Donald Trump. I mean, the lawyers are key players in this, not just because they're advising their client in a legally treacherous terrain, but because they're now witnesses and potentially criminally exposed in this.
Pierced attorney-client privilege. It's right there in the wording, huh? The DOJ is breaking the law to charge Trump with breaking the law. Now, what if, this is a big what if, I guess. What if those conversations were all hypothetical conversations? Now, I think you should be allowed to have a private, hypothetical conversation with your lawyer. Right? Or am I just crazy for thinking that way? I don't know. No, the DOJ is well aware that this will not hold up in court. But they don't care because their goal is not to win a case in court, but to influence public opinion. Now, the second big thing that they say the DOJ has on Trump is withholding documents and violating the Presidential Records Act. Now, that doesn't hold up either. The reason being is because the Presidential Records Act says that. All right, so here's the Presidential Records Act. And the two lines we're focusing on here is establish a process by which the president may restrict and the public may obtain access to the records after the president leaves office. Specifically, the PRA allows for public access to presidential records through Freedom of Information Act, FOIA, beginning 5 years after the end of the administration, but allows the president to invoke as many as 6 specific restrictions to public access for up to 12 years. codifies the process by which a former incumbent president conduct reviews for executive privilege prior to public release of records by NARA, which had formerly been governed by Executive Order 13489. Now, if you don't know what the fuck that means, neither do I, but that's okay, because a judge has already ruled in a previous case what those two paragraphs mean. Judge Amy Barron Jackson decided in favor of President Clinton, noting that whatever documentation a president chooses to take is his property to keep. And here's an article showing that statement. Trump's boxes in Clinton's sock drawer. Although the indictment against Donald Trump doesn't cite the Presidential Records Act, the charges are predicated in the law. The indictment came about only because the government thought Mr. Trump took records that didn't belong to him and that the government raided his house to find any such records. This should never have happened. The Presidential Records Act allows the president to decide what records to return and what records to keep at the end of his presidency. And the National Archives and Records Administration can't do anything about it. I know because I'm the lawyer who lost the Clinton sock drawer case. In 2009, historian Taylor Branch published the Clinton tapes, Wrestling History with the Presidents. The book is based on recordings of Mr. Branch's 79 meetings with Bill Clinton between January 20th, 1993 and January 20th, 2001. According to Mr. Branch, the audio tapes preserve not only Mr. Clinton's thoughts on issues he faced while president, but also some actual events such as phone conversations among them. And he goes and he gives some of the things that would be on these tapes, which would be considered national defense stuff and top secret shit. Just saying. Now, let's get to the quote part in this article. So here, let me bring that up. Judge Amy Barron Jackson agreed, since the president is completely entrusted with the management and even the disposal of presidential records during his time in office, she held it would be difficult for this court to conclude that Congress intended that he would have less authority to do what he pleases with what he considers to be his personal records. Judge Jackson added that the PRA contains no provision obligating or even permitting the archivist to assume control over records that the president categorized and filed separately as personal records. At the conclusion of the president's term, the archivist only assumes responsibility for the presidential records. PRA does not confer any mandatory or even discretionary authority on the archivist to classified records. Under the statute, this responsibility is left solely to the president. Now, if you're like me and don't like it when people use opinion pieces, here's a non-opinion piece from Politico. Politico. Judge won't seize Bill Clinton Taylor Branch audio tapes. A federal judge has dismissed a Conversation legal group's lawsuit seeking to force the National Archives to demand audio tapes author Tyler Branch made of President Bill Clinton during his years in office. Acting Thursday on the suit from Judicial Watch, U.S. District Court Judge Amy Jackson said there was no obvious legal mechanism that the archivist could use to force Clinton to turn over the recordings. She also said it wouldn't be legally proper for her to issue such an order in any event, since the archivist has discretion about when to assert the government's rights under the Presidential Records Act. The court has seriously doubts about whether the former president's retention of the audio tapes as personal is a matter that is subject to judicial review. But the court needed to decide this question because whether judicial review is available or not, the relief that plaintiff seeks, the archivist assumes custody and control of the audio tapes, is not available under the PRA, Jackson wrote in her decision. So, easy to say, all these charges don't hold water. And Trump said it best at a rally he held after being indicted, so let's give that a watch.
under the Presidential Records Act, which is civil, not criminal. I had every right to have these documents. The crucial legal precedent is laid out in the most important case ever on this subject, known as the Clinton Socks case. You know what that means? After leaving the White House, Bill Clinton kept 79 audio tapes in his sock drawer. They included discussions of U.S. military involvement in Haiti, discussions of U.S. foreign policy, both defense and offense, against Cuba, recordings of President Clinton's conversations with all of the many foreign leaders at the time. Think of that. Sensitive facts about trade negotiations taken from presidential briefings, discussions with the Secretary of State about conflict in Bosnia, and much, much more. Very big stuff. Not only was Bill Clinton never even considered for criminal prosecution based on the tapes he took, but when he was sued for them, he won the case. Judge Amy Berman Jackson's decision states, under the statutory scheme established by the Presidential Records Act, the decision to segregate personal materials from presidential records is made by the president during the president's term and in the president's sole discretion. You're surprised to hear that, aren't you? Any normal administration, even an opposing one, would consider that to be the end, but not the corrupt Biden administration.
There we go. Trump said it better. That's the big point that everybody brings up, is that the Clinton sock drawer case is different than what's going on with the classified documents that Trump took. And it's like, shut the fuck up. They had top secret information on there, national security information. It's like, come on, quit it. It's like, quit it. This is the DOJ's attempt to affect public opinion and participate in election interference. No. Trump is the front runner, and they all know that. They are afraid of him. That's why they are trying to stop him from achieving the Republican nomination, because he is going to beat whoever they throw at him. They have been trying for the last 6 years to hurt Trump's chances at running or winning the 2024 election. The legislative branch tried to keep Trump from running in 2024 with 2 impeachments. They failed. They then tried to hurt Trump's reputation with the Circus Committee that made zero headway to connect Trump with election interference or insurrection. Their hope was to hurt Trump's popularity among Republican voters. They failed. The judicial branch has now taken up where the legislative branch left off, utilizing the same false accusations, but now using the court of law to hopefully land some Hail Mary loophole to prohibit Trump from running in 2024 or to harm Trump's reputation among his followers, causing him to lose the primary. And unfortunately for them, they're going to fail, because out of everything that has happened so far, Trump has gained support. So in March of 2024, Trump was polling at a 50% to win the Republican primary, and here's a tweet of that. So this is from Interactive Polling, 2024 National Republican Primary, March 24th, 2023. Trump is sitting at a 50%, and that's from a Harris-Harvard poll. Now, Trump is currently polling at a 59% to win the Republican primary, and that's from the same accounts, which is Interactive Polls, and they are showing that the Emerson College poll that was done on June 2022 shows that Trump has gone up to 59%, which has a plus 38 on everybody else. The numbers are right there. I don't know. So, nothing's working. Everything they throw at him just it bolsters his support, and I don't think they understand why. And nobody understands. An article came out here in Washington basically saying that here in Washington, in at least the King County, well, here in the state of Washington, but anyways, that Trump has not lost support even though all of this shit is going on and they're baffled by it. You know? Because they don't understand why. Because to them, where I live at, like, Trump's the boogeyman, and all this stuff that's been shown should, you know, kind of hurt him because it would hurt any other person. But what they don't understand is that everything that's happened to Trump since 2016 has made it so that way the base looks at this shit and they go, well, you've been wrong about everything else. What about now? Why should we believe what you're saying? And let's just say it's true. They're still not going to believe it's true because you've been crying wolf since 2016. And now you're fucking wondering why nobody believes anything? That's why. Because the Democrats are the little boy who cried wolf. And that ends the big lead.
The sharing of biased and
False news has become all too common on social media. More alarming, some media outlets simply aren't true without checking facts first. Unfortunately, some members of the media use those platforms to push their own personal bias and agenda to control exactly what people think. And this is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
All right, guys, that ends the show. Now, thank you for watching. If you like the show and are watching on Rumble or YouTube, please give a like and subscribe. I think this should be the first episode going fully up on Twitter. So if you like it on Twitter, please hit like and retweet and, you know, give me a follow. And if you're listening on Spotify or Apple, please hit the subscribe button. I'd appreciate it. Anyways, take care, guys. See you next episode.